Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. In just a moment, we're going to begin the funeral ceremony of Barry Cilman. We are honored to have from the United States Army, the Military Honor Guard, to recognize Barry's service to our country. So the family will now be seated as we begin the military portion of the service. We'd like to thank the United States Army Honor Guard, and we're now going to ask the three children to come forward to place in another ceremony, Barry's Tilly and his Jerry's Fruit Market sweatshirt on the casket. And at this time, I ask those of you in the first row to please rise to support your family as Rabbi Weil begins with the ceremony of Kriya. A gentle reminder to all of you here, please be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, and we welcome those of you joining us online. So if the family just wants to gather around the three children, come forward as the rabbi does the ceremony.
I'll be right there. No, it's okay. I can do that. In the Bible, when something calamitous would happen, something sad would happen, our biblical forebears would perform an act of kriya. Kriya means tearing. And they would do that to, in a sense, symbolically expose their wounded and vulnerable and sad hearts. And so this ritual of kriya, of tearing, acknowledges God. The blessing that you will recite acknowledges God as the Dayan Ha-Emet, the judge of truth. Adonai, ma Adam v'teda ehu, ben enosh v'techajvehu, Adam lehevel dama, yamav ketzel over, baboki atzitz v'chalaf le'erev, yimalel v'yavesh, tashev enosh adaka v'tomer shuvu v'nei Adam. These are the words of the psalmist from the Psalms saying, Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you would even be mindful of us? What are we that you would have any regard for us? We're all of us just a breath. Our days are a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening it fades and withers. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return, O mortal ones. Would that we were wise, would that we understood whither we go from here. For when we die, we carry nothing with us, not our riches, not our glory. But God, you say, Shmor tam urei yashar, mark the wholehearted, behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find shalom, who shall find peace in the end. Friends, we gather today to remember one and say farewell to one who was Tam v'yashar. He was wholehearted and upright. He was loving and compassionate. Just a very, very decent human being. Barry Cilman, his memory for blessing. Esa enai el haharim. I lift up my eyes unto the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the eternal God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector does not slumber. Behold, the Shomer Yisrael, the protector of Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian and your protection at your right hand. May the sun not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. May God guard you from all harm. May God guard your soul, your going out and your coming forth, now and forever. You'll find the 23rd Psalm in our handouts. I will read it first in Hebrew, and then we'll read it together in English. It's on the inside of our handouts. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzar, bino deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yinahaleni nafshi yeshavev, yancheni v'magle tzedek leman shemo, gam ki elech, begeit salmavet, lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha mishentecha, hema yinachamuni, ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai, tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi ravaya, ach tov v'chesed yudafuni kol yemei chaya, v'shafti b'veit Adonai la'orach yamim. We read the 23rd Psalm together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We come to the third chapter of Ecclesiastes. In Hebrew, it's called Kohelet. These verses are popular verses known to us from popular song. It conveys this idea that is a difficult idea to accept sometimes, that everything in this universe, everything in our lives kind of unfolds the way it ought to, that there's a time and a season and a purpose for everything. And that is indeed a difficult idea for us sometimes to absorb and to follow. And yet our tradition does guide us toward that idea. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time for silence, and a time to speak. And so we speak words in honor of Barry Cilman. And I was talking with the family, meeting with them a couple nights ago. Barry's age came up, that he lived to 80 years old. And I mentioned that there's this dictum in Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, from Mishnah, which is part of Talmud, that says, Bishmonim gevura. At 80, strength. At 80, strength. And you wonder how that makes sense, actually. Certainly 80 can be an age of strength, but it's often a time when ailments and physical vulnerabilities are kind of in sharp relief. Our sages 2,000 years ago definitely understood this. So they meant that 80 brought a different kind of strength. It was the strength of a kind of wisdom, or kinds of wisdom. It's the strength of clarity, possessing clarity in an uncertain and confusing world. It is the strength of understanding the value, for instance, of good work throughout our lives, which the sages were very keen on. It is the strength of knowing that God wants us to enjoy the blessings that this world offers, all of its blessings, like, for instance, key lime pie, single malt scotch, fireballs, and free breakfasts at random Hampton Inns on the way to Sarasota. Things that Barry enjoyed. And most importantly, truly the strength of compassionate living, treating others with kindness, of being a loving person, having a loving heart, of being dependable, and of offering sound advice, and of making difficult situations a little better. That strength, perhaps that's the strength that comes with 80 years old. It's the wisdom. All that and more comprise the strength and the wisdom of Barry Cilman, who lived his 80 years, his 80 years, and whose passing we mourn at this time. Barry and his sister, Janice, were from Rochester, Illinois, raised by parents Florence and Garson, living on Princess Drive. As a kid, Barry worked hard in school and also as a caddy. He learned the value of hard work early. Went to high school, and after high school, he studied business at SUNY Buffalo, and then he served in the Army as a general's aide. That sounds kind of neat and important. At one point, Barry explained to his boss, I assume the general, explained to this military man that he, Barry, was, quote, he said, "I'm a lover, not a fighter." An interesting thing to say to a general. But that honest bit of self-revelation was, I think, fortuitous, and it enabled him to serve not in Vietnam, because this was the mid to late 60s, but in Korea during peacetime. So Barry Cilman, soldier, lover, served there, and he was honorably discharged in 1968. He then came back stateside and he worked in sales. He worked for International Paper and Don Allison. This brought him to Chicagoland. And he was successful in sales, and this does not surprise me at all, actually, because he possessed a very evident integrity. He exuded trustworthiness and reliability, a sort of trait that we have all certainly observed. Barry's most important job back then, though, was, of course, as parent to Lauren. He was an amazing father. In fact, as Lauren said, her dad was at times both father and mother, most important to her during those years. Barry indeed played many roles for many people. For Richard, he could be both buddy in Vegas and friend and father who nursed him back to health and strength. Barry could also be direct, and he could exhibit a strength, and I would say, well, so one of you said tough love as Papa, but he was also all in on the fun. For Lauren, her dad was fun and sweet and sensitive. For instance, when your pet frog died, Barry didn't have the heart to tell his daughter that the pet frog had died, so he placed the inert amphibian on his shoulder and walked down the street with it on there. It's funny, but also really shows his sensitivity and his thoughtfulness in his heart. Similar, in a sense, to when Lauren would call her dad from London, late night for her, and Barry knew exactly what she needed to hear. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. Was this his way of telling you, Lauren, that it was time to fold 'em and walk away and go home? I don't know, but either way, it was perfect. It was just what you needed to hear. Years earlier, Barry would take Lauren out for dinner at one of his go-to places on Rush Street. He loved his go-to, his regular places. Perhaps this was Billy's on Rush Street, but one night he was at Billy's and he was alone. He was flying solo. I like using the word flying solo for someone who had his pilot's license. But this one night when he was alone there, he espied a woman across the restaurant or the bar with a great smile and great hair. The bartender told Barry that this woman would occasionally come there to that place with friends. And Barry said, "Call me next time she comes in." And that call arrived. So I imagine Barry hurriedly getting dressed, spraying on some cologne, and hurrying on over. That was, I believe, April 1st, 1984. And he hurried on over, and he met that lady, Maggie. And their relationship represented really a new start for both of them. Certainly for Barry. Firstly, a new sartorial start. A new start in terms of his men's clothes. For it marked the end of his polyester era. Maggie, who owned her own boutique, did not blend well with polyester. So he gave it all away, and he enjoyed the tax deduction. They married in Vegas first, May 7th, 87, and then in Chicago on June 14th. They were married for 37 years. They were basically together for those 37 years, 24/7. They were together, but not alone together. Far from it. For Barry and Maggie combined their families, as Barry and Lauren joined with Maggie and Richard and Marcy, and there was no his family and her family. It was just one family, was and is one family, this family, right here. A family that has really morphed into sort of a clan of good people, loving people, close to each other. Barry was father-in-law to Joan, to Tim, and papa to so many, an increasing number as the years rolled on. Josh and Rachel, Max and Kara, Sam, Carly and Sean, Tatum and Ben, Rachel, Brandon, George, Mia, and of course Wyatt, Graham, and Marnie. Barry was also beloved and a father figure to Dawn. A big, loving, wonderful family. Good thing that the two of them added space to the Sarasota home. It needed it, and it was a family gathering place. And another gathering place for this family was, of course, the store. Barry applied his creative thinking to the business, recommending good innovations like expanding, carrying fresh meat, and more. He was also, I think he probably made himself, I'm sure of it, in fact, an informal recruiter for the staff, never shy about approaching someone who might be working somewhere else. And he liked their work ethic, their personality, whatever, and so he'd just go up to them and recruit. Barry, no stranger to the couch in Richard's office, because he would often nap there, also sometimes even slept over when he thought doing so would be good for the business and helpful and necessary. Barry and Richard worked well together, and they played well together too. Barry joined Richard and his buddies in Vegas. Barry enjoyed male bonding and would do so with college buddies, as he did even fairly recently. But those were his peers. But the question was could he keep up with Richard and his friends? They were 20 years younger than he. Could he keep up? Well, remember, this was the man who was first out on the dance floor. This was the man who did the worm, which over time evolved or devolved into the gator as his body changed. This was the papa who did crazy walks to entertain grandchildren. This was the man, and I had not heard this story before, and I think I have it right, who led the charge through the airports because there was no way they would miss the plane from 2 graduations, I believe Tatum's to Rachel's, is that right? So he led the charge. They arrived at the gate too late. And you know, when you arrive at the gate too late, you were just out of luck, unless you're with Barry Cilman. He banged on the window, and the pilot, incredibly, returned to the gate. So yes, he could keep up with Richard's friends in Vegas, although he might have needed a little more recovery time than the younger men. Barry and Maggie made fun for this family. A lot of fun. There was the Dude Ranch, and there was City Slicker, recently in Punta Cana for his 80th. I first came in contact with this family a couple years ago, right before Maggie passed away. What a gracious lady she was. It was obviously a sad time, for all of you. It was good fortune for me, although it's a sad time. Good fortune that another rabbi happened to have been unavailable. I have been honored now to have been with you during these difficult times, but for a very happy occasion as well. For Tatum's and Ben's wedding was just a few months ago, and this is life. Sadnesses followed, God willing, by simchas. Barry definitely struggled with the loss of his Maggie. He told me so, and you all witnessed it. It was evident. But even throughout that difficult period of mourning, he was always present for you. Brandon mentioned the other night how Barry, even when he was not feeling well, I think physically, perhaps emotionally too, nonetheless, he came to the store to take his grandson out to lunch. And it was at one of Brandon's basketball games that Barry met a very special woman, special companion, Cookie. They have had a wonderful year together, which has been a blessing. Bishmonim Givura, at 80, strength. The strength of 80, the strength of 80 years abides within one's depth of wisdom, within one's well of wisdom, if you will. Barry's wisdom resided in his words and in his deeds. It resided upon his dancing feet and within his loving heart. His wisdom was knowing that life is indeed a blessing to be fully celebrated. Barry Cilman, amazing father, amazing husband and partner, beloved papa, and friend to so very many. Zichrono livracha. May his memory be for blessing. Amen. It's my honor to call forward his daughter, Lauren. Please make sure that your cell phones are silenced. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rabbi Weil spoke a lot about his life already, but to me, he was my stability and the biggest influence in my life. He always wanted the best for me and for those that he loved. His advice was unmatched, and he always knew what to say at every juncture. Everything came from the heart and with the best intentions. I came to live with him in Madeline when I was 11, and if it wasn't for this upbringing, at this point in my life, there's no way I would be who I am today. He pushed me to work hard and instilled a good work ethic and determination in me at a young age. I admired him for what an amazing and devoted husband he was. His love affair with Madeline spoke volumes of his enduring commitment and dedication to their love. I'm so lucky to have found someone who possesses these same qualities in my husband, Tim. I will always remember the great memories, the weekends on the boat, summers at the ranch, and later in my life when my family would come to Florida and my kids could spend time with their papa. He would do all the silly things like he did with all the other grandkids. I just wish he had more time. I will miss his classic sayings like, "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree," or "I was born in the night but not last night," and when he called me Cilman. I will miss his countdowns of days and wake-ups when we were getting close to visiting him. And our favorite song we would sing together, "The Gambler" by Kenny Rogers. I will miss his voice and speaking to him every day. I loved who he was, a creature of habit, wearing the same clothes, enjoying the same food, at the same restaurants, drinking Macallan 12 or Belvini with an ice cube on the side and a lemon twist at the same places. He embraced the familiar. He just liked what he liked. Not too long ago, Cookie came into his life, and she introduced him to new friends, different places, updated clothes, which he fully embraced, and he loved to tell me about it. He loved you, Cookie, and he was so looking forward to his future with you and all that you guys had planned together. So thank you for putting a smile on his face and making him laugh and love again. He passed on his wisdom, his love, his hard work, and dedication to those around him. His presence will be deeply missed, but the memories of his life will continue to inspire and comfort us. Rest in peace, Dad.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Beautiful. Granddaughter Tatum and Ben.
This is a letter from Barry's granddaughter Tatum. Papa, Pops, or when I was forced to be professional at work, Barry. I can't remember life without you in it. You were there for every major life event of mine, from school dance pictures, to middle school, high school, and college graduations, to getting our haircut at the same barber, to not only attending my wedding, but being a major part of it, including planning the dinner the night before, or as you called it, the prenuptials. You wanted to make sure it was as perfect as possible because you always believed that anyone that you cared about deserved the best that life has to offer. As always, you didn't let anyone down. We made such great memories together around the globe in places like Chicago, Florida, New Orleans, Italy, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, and a location that could be considered its own city, Jerry's Fruit and Garden. I was so fortunate to be able to grow so close to you over the past couple of years, working side by side and even sharing an office with you. Most of what I have learned at the store has come from emulating you and your expertise. The way you so easily managed relationships with the vendors and employees, and the way you could check over 5+ pages of invoices and manually do the math in your head has always amazed me. Not only did you oversee everything at the store, but it was never below you to be the one to adjust items on the shelves, no matter how high or how low, which as an 80-year-old man was amazing. You'd always say, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Papa, despite your tiny feet, you left some big shoes to fill, and I'll do my best to make you proud. I'm going to miss seeing you every day and hearing your voice every day more than anyone could ever imagine. I will also miss your advice by telling me what I need to hear, even if it wasn't always what I wanted to hear. We may not have agreed on everything, but by putting both of our minds together, we made a great team. I love you so much, and I hope you enjoy all of the Macallan 12, Pocus tea, and well-done sesame cookies in heaven as you could ever desire. Love your granddaughter, Tatum.
Thank you all. Leda hi reshit uftirat tachlit hachayim kamasahem kachalicha kitzmicha mishalav l'shalav. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, but life is a journey, a going and a growing from stage to stage. And now, sadly, the life journey of Barry Cilman has come to its conclusion. And so, O God, into your care we entrust the spirit of Barry Cilman, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us, O God, that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that will lie ahead for us, knowing that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you will be there, O God, as a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. Please now rise, if it's comfortable for you to do so, for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Tehorim, Kezohar Rakiyam Asirim, Et Nishmat Hayikar Shalanu, Shahalach L'olamo, Baal Rachamim Yasirechu, Beseter Kenafav L'olamim, B'ritzur B'tzur HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkabo v'nomar. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure who glow like the light of the heavens to Barry Cilman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say, Amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, the interment service will continue at Memorial Park Cemetery, located at 9900 Grosse Point Road here in Skokie. The family will be at the Rieger residence following the interment till 8:30 p.m., and memorial contributions may be made to your favorite charity. For those of you who are joining us online, the Shiva information can also be found on the funeral home's website. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Please use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersection. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. At this time, I'd like to invite all the family members, except for his children, to come forward to serve as pallbearers and honorary pallbearers as we escort the casket of Barry Cilman from the chapel. Then you may return to your cars.